Okay, so looking at this, this basically is an orthographic projection. I'm going to have a few copies of this in class, but I just kind of want to go through some of the basics with you, so you actually have it on video as well, so you can kind of review it and understand some of the areas to focus on when you're talking about these orthographic projections. So the whole concept of orthographic projection is it has like three views to it, right? It has the front view, it has a top view, and it has a side view, and then everything lines up through these three panels. Basically, if you took these three panels and actually folded them in, you would actually have the object sitting in the middle, and then you would have projection screens and everything. And one thing that I'll show you in class is kind of using that acrylic and how it actually projects to that plane and everything, because that's a big key component to it. But so um, the front view is the front of this object, right? The top view, of course, is a flat version of the top of this object, and this side view is a flattened version of this side of the object. Basically projected out to a plane on in all directions, to where the last component of an orthographic view is actually doing an isometric view a lot of times, so you can actually see that version of it. But this is when you actually have a design document, specifically, like you would actually have these three views, and then you can have an isometric on it. But the isometric is very specific as well, because with the isometric, these lengths are actual true lengths, as well as setting it up to where you actually have 30 degrees projection and stuff like that. It's really important to kind of understand how all that's set up and how that looks. But As you create this, you'll notice that as it goes through, specific distances and lengths are all equal. Like you notice how this is equal to this right here, because it lines up to the corner of how it's actually folded, and controls kind of that imagery of it. This corner is the same as this corner. This bottom corner is the same as that bottom corner, because that distance from there is the same as that distance from there, and that's how you actually kind of line everything up. Now, granted, this is all kind of sketched out, but if you want to know a little bit more information about it, we can actually have a sit down and kind of go more in depth about it. The important thing to know about orthographic views is you can take them in the sense that you can make them a little bit more aesthetic. So there's that thing that's hanging down, and it actually has a little piece. I call them like a little, basically a a a bracket for making mobiles. But I came up with the concept so I could actually CAD it out. So this right here is kind of like a more stylized isometric, right? So this kind of shows that bracket of what you're actually, what you can physically see that's on the mobile that's hanging in the classroom there. But this is kind of the direction that you can actually take this concept of taking um, an isometric view from an orthographic projection, so you can actually make kind of cool images in a design document. So going along with that, then you have like a whole design document that talks about going through and actually taking one of these brackets, and then what you can actually do with one of these brackets, and uh, and making it to where you have you take folded cardstock, you take four pieces of folded cardstock, you put them together, and then you actually use your two design brackets. You put them together, you stretch rubber ends around them, and then you actually have that hanging piece that you see there. and just kind of talking about that, and then some fun facts around there. The whole reason that it actually works is because it centers that gravity over the center, and it keeps it all together by the two rubber bands holding it together and kind of centralizing all that force in the center, where all the mass of that cardstock is, right there in the center, right there, and that's why it all works. Now, conceptually, like if we actually look at this, so let's take this down. Can move the dock cam out of the way. In fact, we can actually. I wanted to start talking a little bit more about this, but so like you can actually see the dragon table that's actually sitting there, and with this dragon table that we got there. Coming up with a concept first of all to where looking at the corner of it, designing it in such a way that I wanted it to look like you're looking at a dragon's face, right? So just kind of coming up with that concept is still doing that isometric, doing like this little insert right here, and talking about it. But along those lines, it comes from actually looking at an actual piece of furniture that was designed in such a way that's very similar. So I had a table at home that I actually looked at the corner of it, so I can conceptually think about how to design the corner element of that table itself, and kind of looking at it. So kind of breaking it down, doing an exploded view, and looking at that, so I can actually do the construction of that corner. And then here's a little bit more about the design of the table itself, looking at that. But here you can actually see that these are all set up in specific isometrics. So you actually have the 30-degree angle, and actually setting it up as a design document itself. But I wanted to show you these because this is kind of the concept of what I wanted you to do for your term 2 project, kind of going through. So it doesn't necessarily have to be specifically a table. It could be anything, but kind of going through the process of looking at something and creating some cool looking design documents on something that you actually want to develop and go through the process of actually looking at. But that will be the key component for 2D design, for doing your term project for 2D design. I will upload these documents and everything in the Google Classroom, so you can take a peek at them and actually look at them and look them over and everything, just to kind of give you some ideas. But that's the big goal. And then I'll definitely sit down with you on a one-on-one basis. We'll talk a little bit more about it, on how you can actually go through with your own planned concept and everything, and how you can actually develop that. So see you in the classroom.